every day is a battle, not just for you and me, but for all the Rangers players at spring training. Yes, some of them know they'll be on the team, but they're still battling every day. We talk about that next. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast. Earning your spot is something that even wily old veterans feel like they must do. It's one of the things that motivates a Major League Baseball player as they hit spring training and get ready for the season. Hi there. Welcome into the DLLS Sports Studios. Welcome to the DLLS Rangers podcast. And look who showed up, at least here in studio. Jeff Wilson's back from Arizona for a few days, and we're glad to have him back. J-Dub's here with me, John Radigan. It's Rads and the Prophet over there, and he's got us all looking snappy and good today with the graphics and all those other things that he does. You see, it's still spring training. They're playing a game. I think, do they start right now or in 5 minutes, Jeff?
No, they start in 2 hours.
Oh, in 2 hours. Oh, that's right. Time changes are hard for me.
Well, right. and we changed our time from 2 now that I'm not there.
Yes, that's right.
Here.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're back to our normal off-season slot. But
yeah.
I think during the regular season, we'll probably be a 1.
I think that's probably the best time.
And then next week we might be a 1. We got to talk to the Queen about that.
Little regular season preview next week.
Maybe. Just the time change thing. It is screwy.
Yeah, it's nasty.
Yeah.
And I was going backwards on it. So, but anyway,
Just wait till daylight savings starts. Arizona doesn't do it.
Right.
So everything changes to 2 hours behind us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So great. Okay. Can't wait for that. Are they still out there for that? When does that happen?
That happens next weekend. March 8th is the Saturday.
And it's spring ahead, so that's when you lose a damn.
That's when you lose, unless you're in Arizona.
Right.
You don't lose it. Or parts of Indiana and Hawaii, I believe.
And I keep hearing that maybe they're going to stop the nonsense and just keep the time the same all the time.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I don't. It's for the farmers, right?
I think it is. I don't want to mess with the farmers.
No, they're good people.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
really good people. So, spring training well underway with relatively little bad news. I guess, though, as we wrap up a very busy weekend, Jeff, we can start with what is not a little bit of bad news. It's a lot of bad news for Rosario.
Oh, man, that stinks.
We love this kid. He's just excelled through. He's the number 2 pitching prospect in the organization right now, behind Rocker, right? I mean, Rocker is the only one that's ahead of him, and Rocker is basically considered a big leaguer right now. And boy, the elbow started hurting, and they haven't officially said he needs Tommy John, but Chris Young was pretty sure that it looked like, Jeff, that he'll need Tommy John surgery.
Yeah. They're just trying to sort out when the surgery is going to be, and there are different ways of doing it now. You can do Tommy John, or you can do the brace surgery, which shortens the recovery time. But I don't know if it adds to the likelihood that a second Tommy John will be coming in your future. So I'm not sure what they're going to do yet, but he's not going to pitch this year. They've already declared him out for the year. So, if you have a sprain or a tear, they're synonymous terms. If you have that, I don't know that you wait 6 weeks to see if it gets stronger or gets better, or you start throwing again and then it blows out. It's kind of what happened with Natali Feliz way back when. Yep. So I say just go and get it done. Get it done this week. Keith Meister will make room for you, and then start the recovery, which would get him back probably next June or July, because it's 15 months. It stinks on a couple fronts. Yes, it's a year of development, but this kid, he's so nice and polite and was raised right, and just burst onto the scene last year after figuring some things out following his last year in college at Miami. But, you see a guy throwing 97, 98, 100 with a power off-speed stuff. You're just like, well, shoot, it's going to happen. You just kind of expect it. Even for the guys who seem like the healthiest. And he's not like a huge guy. He's 6 feet. When I first met him, he'd been on our podcast, the weekly show, a couple times, and he just looks big. But then you meet him, and he's a little slighter than I thought he'd be. I'm not saying that's why he got hurt. These guys just get hurt. You get hurt doing an unnatural act with your elbow and with your arm. But it does suck because he's a good kid, and it wouldn't have been crazy to think that if he'd had the same season he had last year, that he could be knocking on the door at the end of this season. How
old is he?
He went to college.
Yeah,
so he's 23, I think, 23, 24.
Yeah, so it'd be a nice time for a kid that age to be knocking on the door. Right. And now that knocking on the door gets pushed back, obviously, at least 15 months and probably more like 2 years.
Yeah, because they're
then
be very, very cautious with him in 26.
He'll spend the rest of next summer.
Yeah, it'll probably look a lot like Rocker this last year. Comes back, throws a couple innings, then gets up to 3, then maybe to 4, and then you just kind of cap him at 5 and watch the innings. Probably candidate to pitch in the fall league if they want to do that. So his major league arrival has definitely been pushed back. There's no doubt about it. Now it's looking maybe 27 as the earliest.
Yeah, so, which again, now you're a pretty old prospect, obviously.
Yeah, at that point, you need to be in the major leagues. Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but definitely a kick in the gut. For the organization.
Yeah, that was hard to hear. Meantime, Bruce Bochy apparently is soliciting former players of his to do what he did and unretire. Yeah. Which we had an example of. Again, he played for Boch back in 2019 or 2019.
Yeah. That was after Pilar finished up his Blue Jays tenure, went to the Giants. Always a solid player, a pesky player. He always seemed to be a pain in the Rangers' butt during those Blue Jays Rangers series and seasons. 15, 16.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good guy. I watched the media availability with him that they had yesterday, and he's moved to Argyle.
Yeah,
bought some land in Argyle, brought the family to North Texas, and then decided, you know what, I'm not ready to retire, and good for him. If you don't want to retire, don't retire. So he's going to give it a shot. I'm trying to figure this one out. This one's. I don't want to say a head scratcher, but I guess the outcome of it is him being there. That's what's making me scratch my head. He hits left-handed pitching really well, which Evan Carter and Leody Taveras don't do. Pilar's a terrific defensive player. So man, are Taveras and or Carter now an option to start the year at AAA or to be traded? They're not going to trade Carter. So Taveras, is something else, happening, or will something happen at the end of camp? Pilar still has to win the job.
Right.
That's what he's saying, and that's what Chris Young is saying. But I listened to the Chris Young availability. He's like, we're really excited he's here. He's somebody we wanted, all this and all that. Well, if it's somebody you wanted, and the way Chris was talking about him, why not? It sounds like you give him a major league contract. It's just. So I don't know. That one seems to have created some competition on the roster, which gets back to the original point. Your lead in, John.
Yep.
I mean, there is some competition going on.
Yeah, and that's what maybe in a way inspired my thought for the headline and all that today, and was just that. Look, they are competing, and if Taveras and Carter just thought they were competing against each other, and to see which one could hit lefties. Boom, we throw a wild card into the mix here, right? And this is a guy, this is a former defensive player of the year in Major League Baseball, right? I mean, he won what is that award you get for that?
Platinum glove?
Whatever it is. And he was, and again, he's getting older. He's 36, but he was among the best defensive outfielders in the game. And as recently as last year, Jeff, he hit .310 in the Angels and White Sox organizations against left-handed pitching.
Yeah, and the Rangers would have loved to have had a guy like that last year. And I don't remember what Robbie Grossman's final numbers were, but this. When I was trying to figure this out, it is kind of Robbie Grossman. Chris Young was asked by Sean McFarland with the Morning News if it's kind of similar to Travis Jankowski coming in and being a veteran and all this stuff. Pilar's more accomplished than Travis, and he's older than Travis, and he's been more of a, well, I guess this goes under the more accomplished. He's been an everyday player for much of his career. I kind of look at this as in 22 when the Rangers signed Matt Carpenter.
Okay.
Matt Carpenter was looking to rebound. He wasn't ready to retire yet. The guy had been a 2 or 3 time All-Star for the Cardinals, and the Rangers could have used him, and he damn near got called up, but he hit so well at AAA. But what my point is, you have this guy. He comes into camp late. There's no real spot for him. You don't think. Does he accept the assignment to go to the minor leagues? And then if Leodio or Evan is struggling, or if somebody gets hurt, does he wait for that? Or what if he just goes down to AAA and is destroying it like Matt Carpenter did? Does somebody call from another team and want him? And those are all possibilities here, but it just seems like the Rangers, and Chris Young mentioned this, he said, I think that everybody on our roster is going to be healthy and rebound and have a great year. But I also thought that last year.
Yep.
And we were caught with our pants down when these things didn't happen. They had to go get Robbie Grossman in May. And, then some injuries hit. At that point, then when they got Robbie Grossman, well, Evan Carter was still technically healthy, and trying to battle through this back thing. They just didn't foresee what happened. And really, Chris was a little more blunt. He said Evan Carter is the only outfielder who performed the way we needed them to.
Wow.
And so he's got that in the back of his mind that, a potential, 15-car pileup is in the Rangers' future, and he wants somebody who can go in there and clean it up. So maybe that's what Kevin Pillar's purpose is. But it's really weird that you'd make this addition, a veteran guy who has been in the major leagues and is coming off a good season in one regard, at least, against one of your biggest weaknesses last season, and say, well, he's got to win a job. I don't know. I'm a little suspicious that he has to win a job. I think he might already have a job.
Could be a little conspiracy working here. We're working on a conspiracy theory, and if he doesn't make the major league team, if he doesn't accept the assignment to AAA, he can just go back to the farm in Argyle, where he now has 60 chicken and 6 llamas, several of which are pregnant, apparently.
Well,
as is his wife. So
maybe there's some big money in llama.
Yeah, llama.
Eat
your food, you stupid llama.
A llama rancher,
Yeah.
And maybe there's a little the homestead write-off, if you have a certain animal, you get the farm exemption or the ag exemption. Ag exemption. There we go. Yeah.
Quick little Napoleon Dynamite reference there on the llama, by the way. And also, one other thing to get to, and it's one of the questions I think Natalie's asking, update on Wyatt Langford. Now, I know you haven't been there since Friday, but it looks like he's moving forward and getting closer to returning.
Again, he met with the media yesterday, and in true Wyatt form, it was short and sweet.
Yep.
And he said it really wasn't even he just didn't even make it sound like it was an injury. He said it had been tight a couple weeks, and they just decided to do it. He said it's no big deal. He was going to do some more strenuous stuff yesterday to see how it feels today, but he expected, as of yesterday, to be doing normal baseball things within a few days. So at some point this week, which would coincide with that initial 5 to 7 day window.
Yep. And it certainly speaks to what they like to call around camps, not just in this sport, It speaks to exercising and abundance of caution.
Yes.
They don't want this kid to get hurt, and so they're doing everything they can to make sure that he doesn't. Now, along the lines of this competition that we've been talking about, one of them is certainly for that fifth spot in the rotation, the fifth pitcher in the rotation. Who might that be? And did that competition get even more crowded this weekend? We talk about Jack Leiter and more next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. First, though, it's Shady Rays, and thank goodness we need them. Actually, it was so foggy this morning, I came out of the house thinking I wasn't going to need mine, and I did, which is great because it's burned off, as they say. It's kind of like that marine layer when we're out west. It burns off. The fog, wherever it came from, burned off, and it's nice to see the sun again. Didn't see enough of it last week. Nice to feel the warm temperatures again, and it reminds us of sunglass weather, which is nigh upon us. It's right here now. And you need a new pair. There's no doubt. Everybody needs a new pair. You can do no better than Shady Rays. I'll tell you that right now. Go to shadyrays.com. If you go there, we're going to give you 35% off, and you'll be surprised that they're not that expensive to begin with. You take 35% off, you're going to be happy. Great styles. They're very well made, and I'm a huge fan of them. Shadyrays.com with the code DLLS.
You know what time it is?
Game time.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we had a tournament over the weekend. We'll get to that a little bit later on. And we were there yesterday from, at least I was there, from 7:15 a.m. until 5:30. So man, we don't have a cooler. We don't have the cooler yet from our good friends at. Oh, shoot. I screwed this up. I looked at the next ad read.
Oh, you thought you were doing Rugged Road.
Yeah. Well, anyway, you didn't need tickets to go to Henry's game over the weekend, but if you wanted to go to any other game in the area and you didn't have tickets, the best place to do it is through the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app. $20 off your first purchase with the code DLLS. As I always say, the absolute best thing about Game Time is right there, the all-in pricing. That price you see is the price you get when you check out. So, again, download the Game Time app. $20 off, first purchase, DLLS.
Game time. So,
what the hell am I doing?
Yeah. Rugged Road. No,
coming up.
We'll get to Rugged Road. So let's get to Jack Leiter. Really, one of the highlights of the weekend. And we've talked a lot about Jack, of course, over the offseason, Jeff. We've talked a lot about him at the end of last season.
Yeah.
We've already talked a lot about him in spring training. And we're all kind of going, well, Jack's going to be fine in the bullpen. Jack's okay with it. Mentally, Jack's okay with the bullpen. Bullpen. I got news for you, and I thought about it this morning when I was looking at this. Jack doesn't come to spring training thinking, I'm going in the bullpen. He's a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
And this is where that competition comes. This is those competitive juices flowing. And Jack Leiter, Jeff, was throwing almost 100 miles an hour over the course of this weekend and spotting well and doing a great job. And, he did allow 2 hits in his second inning of work, no runs scored, and 2 hits and a walk, I think, or a hit batter maybe. And he worked out of that jam, right? So it's great to see that he's all in, right? He's like, I'm not just like giving up and saying, just because the guys on the DLLS Rangers podcast and really most of the other media are saying I'll be in the bullpen. I think Jack Leiter's announcing with that performance, I'm here to compete.
It was an interesting weekend on the pitching front. Jack, 98, getting up there at 98. Now, but you might have seen both Jacks. The really good
true.
Jack, and then the Jack who kind of can be a little hairy. But if you are throwing in the strike zone, you're going to give up hits. So that's good. That's Greg Maddux. Of all the things that he did in baseball, never throw a no-hitter because he threw strikes. And sometimes you're just going to leave one, and somebody's going to put it in play, and it's going to find the outfield grass, or somebody's going to beat it out, or something. Okay, so and that's fine. If you're working efficiently and competitive in the strike zone, then great. He's working on some different things. He's working on a new changeup grip. He's working on a two-seamer that he wants to start throwing to right-handed hitters. He's maturing and evolving as a pitcher. And yeah, I mean, he could make the rotation. He's good. I think I mentioned this the other day. I was standing with Colby Lewis watching Jack throw a bullpen, and Colby was like, right there, what he's doing right now is good enough to get 90% of hitters out.
Wow. That's amazing.
But it sounds like you put a batter in the box and something happens. So,
because he was throwing a bullpen.
He was just throwing a bullpen
when
session,
you and Colby were watching. Gotcha.
And so it's like, well, what's the difference? You don't need to do anything different when there's a guy in the box. That's what Colby was saying, and I think that's what they're trying to get, maybe convince him, and hopefully he's learned that on his own, that his stuff plays. Don't worry about the hitter. Put the pitches where you need to put them, and throw the ones you want to throw when you want to throw them, and you're going to be just fine. So I still though tend to think that his best chance is through the bullpen. I wrote about this. We talked about this last week. They need guys who can throw 2-3 innings at a time out of the bullpen, and they have minor league options, so that if something happens and the Rangers need a fresh arm, well, they got a guy. So, but he is competing, and he was really good last spring, and it turned into a really good year for him. He was got to keep in mind, he's the Pacific Coast League Pitcher of the Year last year. He was really, really good at AAA, where they have the ABS, where you see around that league walk totals going up because hitters will just spit on a pitch if they don't think they can handle it, or they think it might be a little bit off the plate. They're going to take it. And so that means that Jack's stuff was competitive in the zone. And when he got ahead, he was able to get guys to chase his swing, his slider, and whatever other off-speed pitches he's been throwing. So I'm not ruling out the rotation. I'm more bullish on the bullpen. Also not ruling out AAA. I mean, there are a lot of ways this could go, just depending on how this staff gets made out.
Yeah, it looked like the slider was working pretty well over the course of this weekend as well. So that was really nice for him. And of course, at this point, if you're talking about him competing for that fifth spot in the rotation, obviously there are two other names. One we'll get to in the next segment, Kumar Rocker, but the other one is Cody Bradford, Jeff. And Cody, was asked about it. I'm sure you asked him about it too. Like, he's certainly not shooing or penciling or certainly penning himself in as that fifth starter. He knows he's there to compete and to earn that spot.
Well, and he said right in our first interview with him this spring, my goal is to make the team and to help the team however the team needs help. And if that means a bullpen, great. Now he wants to be a starter, of course.
Yeah.
And he did it so well last year. And last year he had to win a spot in the rotation, and he did. He was great last spring. While still getting, experimenting with a curveball, and now he's working on a little bit of a cutter. But this is another guy who is just always around the strike zone, knows how to pitch, doesn't do it with nearly the same velocity as these guys, but his preparedness and his competitiveness and a little deception with his reach, he knows how to make it work for him and for the Rangers. I think he's the guy to beat in the rotation hunt. Now he also has options, but I just think that he has some huge backers in the manager and the pitching coach, and I think it's his spot to lose. And I think he knows that he has to compete and win, and he did it last year. And I think 2 scoreless innings in his debut, I think he's ready to go out and do that again.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we, as media and as fans, we hear things that were said during the offseason, again, by as high a person in the organization as Chris Young, the president of baseball operations. And Chris Young said on multiple occasions over the offseason, he expects that both Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker will be contributors at the major league level this spring. We're expecting them to be in the majors this year, right?
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean they come out of camp
Right.
in the major leagues, right? Even
for
though,
sure.
like, two things can be true. They contribute to the team this year at the major league level, and they don't make it out of camp.
Yeah. You need so many starters throughout the course of the year, so many relievers, and they are going to be two of the Rangers' top, 20 arms, probably a little bit higher than that. But you have to protect that rotation. And because, again, these guys get hurt. It's just going to happen. You're going to need starting pitching from the minor leagues. And if you can lose, pulling a name out of the hat, John Gray, because he's been lost a few times here the last 3 years, and you can replace him with Jack Leiter or Kumar Rocker, well, holy crap, that's not much of a drop-off, and it may be an upgrade. Who knows? I just think that they're both going to, or I think Kumar is going to be in the minors, but again, if he blows their doors off this spring, he's making his first start tomorrow. He's throwing his live batting practices, all of that, and it's just when it's good, the fastballs, he's commanding the fastball, and the slider's just a devastating pitch. So we'll have to see what happens there, but as good as he looks and has looked, he still only has 3 big league starts. And they didn't cover a whole hell of a lot of innings, and there were things he needed to work on. It was in a low-pressure situation in September, though I'm sure he was feeling some pressure, being Kumar Rocker and his backstory. But I still think that he's, like you said, and like Chris Young has said, he's gonna be a part of the Rangers this season. It's just a matter of when, and it may not be on that first time through the rotation.
So he's thrown live BPs.
He has.
Yeah, so when he was doing so, did you happen to be around any Colby Lewis types? I mean,
no, no, but not before, during a bullpen, and very methodical the way Kumar goes about it, deliberate with purpose, and it does look pretty easy coming out and all that jazz that you hear him say. But the guy's a potential all-star. I mean, he has a really high ceiling, and so I think the Rangers can count on him in future seasons. They're going to have to replace 2 guys at least, 2, Gray and Malley next season. So there's an opening there, but Kumar Rocker is going to contribute, and if he ends up being better than some of these guys when he does come up and contribute, the Rangers will very seriously say, are we a better team with him in our rotation? If they are, then he'll stay. I mean, Chris Young has shown no hesitance to do that. If a guy is performing in the minor leagues, he's going to get a chance, and if he keeps performing in the major leagues, his stay will be lengthened until somebody else comes along and
pitches better. Yeah. And you need look no further than last year to see that, because Kumar, I don't think there was at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, even at the All-Star break, I don't think there was necessarily a plan in place to see Kumar Rocker in the majors last year.
Right.
And he went to Double-A and dominated, just knocked the bats out of everybody's hands. And then even at the Triple-A level, he went and had a few starts, and he was almost as dominant there.
Yeah.
I think basically by that, Chris Young said, got to bring this guy up.
Right. Yeah, and, he was drafted in 22, hurt 23, hurt a lot of last year. He didn't have to go on the 40-man roster. He wasn't Rule 5 eligible or anything, but at some point that's going to happen, and you might as well get your guy on the 40-man now. See if he can help the team, and he can, and he's going to help the team. It just may not be until May or June.
Yeah, and it still could be. We just don't know, and that's where this competition comes in. Jeff mentioned he pitches his first Cactus League, or makes his first Cactus League appearance tomorrow. So maybe he comes out and blows people away for 2 innings, and then that could change all of this. And that's part of the fun of all of this, to see who excels and to see who rises to the level of the competition. So that's an update on the young pitchers right now and what's happening in camp. Next up, we talk about what's happening today in just a couple of hours in Surprise, Arizona. And we also want to get to a name you haven't heard much yet this spring training. Maybe you've heard of him, Jacob deGrom. Next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. First, though, it's FOCO. And you see stuff from FOCO back here. I'm not sure which specifically, but I'm telling you, almost anything you see behind us, you would probably find a version of at FOCO. They have so many things that are marked with your favorite team's colors, your favorite team's logos, and as we've said before, gloves and overalls. If you want to get out in the yard and work, you can find your thing and represent your team there as well. The quality of the FOCO stuff is great, and as I've mentioned before, we bought a couple of things that were the wrong size around the holidays this year. We're able to return them through FOCO just like that. Got the replacement items. In one case, what we had purchased before the holidays was no longer available, but we got something else that was equally awesome, and it came back in no time at all. So I encourage you to use FOCO. Use the code DLLS at FOCO and get 10% off your order.
Let's try this again. You know, John, over the weekend.
Yeah, games.
Yesterday, there was a baseball tournament, and
what time did it start? 7:15.
We were there. I was there at 7:15, and we didn't leave until 5:30 because things went really well. But anyway, we could have really used our Rugged Road cooler.
Sure.
And we don't have one yet, but it is coming. And if you go to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use the code DLS, you get 10% off. These things are lightweight. That's the big thing when you're going to a ballpark or really anywhere. You have to carry stuff, and you don't want it to be heavy because maybe you can stack something on top of it. Maybe it's a tricky incline or something. You don't.
A lot of times you got to go a long way too from the car to the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So these things are durable, which also helps in these concrete jungles at the all these various parks. So ruggedroadoutdoors.com, DLLS, 10% off.
So you say things went well.
Oh yeah.
So tell us how well, what happened? This is a baseball show, by God. We want to know how Henry's doing.
They went 1-1 Saturday and didn't play all that great, although Henry did well. And then they drew the 8:00 game as the 4th seed, and they snuck out of they walked off their first game yesterday at 8 a.m. Then they played a 2-1, a great game, 2-1. How often do you see a 12-year-old
never
game at 2-1?
Pitchers duel.
Great game, great pitching, good defense, and then they won the championship. So
really,
yeah. So they started off the year with a bang, and Henry was fired up, and so that's good. That's all that matters.
Yeah,
the boy's happy. They played well, and it had been a long time coming because they didn't win one last year, and they were kind of chapped about it. So came out of the gates firing.
It's awesome. Was this like the first tournament?
First tournament of the year.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's great because winning is fun, as we all know. We remember 2023. We watched those guys have so much fun while they were winning. We expect that to happen again this year. The game coming up in now like about an hour and a half in the Cactus League with the Rangers. We've got a lineup for that game, and Josh Smith is your leadoff hitter in this game today, Jeff, and Jock Peterson in the 2 spot. And you see, again, these are wildly varied lineups this time of year. The ones who are on a schedule, right, on a rotation, for lack of a better word, are the pitchers because they're the ones that really need that work, and they need to do it in a routine manner. So John Gray out there today.
Yeah, and, I think all the starters have been scheduled for two, or it's usually 30 or 40 pitches. So see how that works out. But this is the first one for him. He's obviously in the rotation and working on things. Maybe again, don't get too high or too low on spring results early on, except in a few cases. Like I think it's a big deal that Cody Bradford threw 2 scoreless innings. I really do, and I think Jack Leiter. I think that's a big deal too. It shows they're ready to come out and compete. And I think John will be too. John's, healthy again. The neuroma in his foot is gone, And so curious, it's a big year for him too, because he's a free agent after this year. So he probably wants to have a big year to help his market going forward. But yeah, I think the way it shakes out, the rotation will be a 6-man rotation for the first couple times through, and then it goes back down to a 5-man rotation where these guys are throwing every 5th day, kind of ramping up a little bit more to get ready for the season. And then there's like split squad games and all that stuff. So there are B games. There are opportunities for guys to pitch, not necessarily in Cactus League games, and you probably won't see a lot of the Rangers regular starters in Cactus League games, especially if it's against a divisional opponent. So that takes us to Jacob deGrom, who's kind of on his own schedule here, and it's not a bad thing. He's thrown 2 bullpen sessions in camp. He's going to throw at least 1 live batting practice, and then he's going to hit a game. And it may be a B game. They may just call up some Royals from the other side of the complex and be like, hey, you guys want to come play a game real quick?
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get some good players in those too. Maybe Bobby Witt Jr. He hit a home run off of Martin Perez 2 years ago in a backfield game. So there's just a lot of ways for these guys to get their work done, but it's going to be consistent. They're going to throw bullpens between their outings. They will get ready for the season, and it's just not everybody's on the same schedule.
Well, and the wisdom in many cases of not playing the regulars on a daily basis, especially against a division team, and not having Jacob deGrom face everybody is right. Then you get to the regular season, and the rest of these major league players, they haven't seen him yet this year.
Yeah, and really the first time I remember this happening was with Yu Darvish. The Rangers thought they had something. They didn't want you to get anybody to get any looks at you. Although his first start was against the Mariners, as I recall. But no, it was the Padres. It was the Padres. Sorry, it was at the Mariners Park because they share the field.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Anyway, you just I specifically remember. Well, why isn't Darvish pitching the Cactus League game? Well, we're playing the Angels. We don't want the Angels to get a look at him. So that's one way to do it. But also, when you go into a backfield situation, you can control the game. It's called rolling the innings. If a guy is back there pitching and all of a sudden his pitch counts at 23 and he only has 2 outs, well, that inning may end.
Yeah, yeah.
Just you hear a coach say roll it, and then everybody goes off the field. Or conversely, if Jacob deGrom gets 3 outs and 6 pitches, he may face 5 batters in that inning just to get his pitch count to a point where they're comfortable that he's getting in enough work. And it's a little different the first couple times it happens. You're like, what just happened? This isn't baseball, but it's not. It's spring training. The games don't count, at least on the backfields. And even now, they made it a rule coming out of COVID that if a starting pitcher in a game is really struggling, but you need him to go deeper in the game, and say he's at 25 pitches in his first inning, but you need him to go at least 4, well, you can go get a reliever to finish the inning and then bring the starter back. And that's a great rule. That one really needed to happen. So it's about keeping the pitchers healthy, getting them ready, which is part of keeping them healthy. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot of ways to get it done. And then on the position player side, they can go back and take at-bats in minor league games. If they don't feel like they've had enough time, enough at-bats, or they want to work on something, or they've missed time, like happens every year, these guys can hop from game to game, and they can get, I don't know, 10 at-bats in a day. They can bat leadoff every time, and just it's all right. Rules don't matter. So anyway, to your point, there are so many ways to get ready for a season, and it doesn't always happen in the big stadium.
And to your point, you can't put too much into results this time of year.
Yeah,
like the 0-3 start by the Rangers with regard to their record. They haven't won a game yet.
Yeah, well, look at how the games have been won or lost. The game Sunday, they built a huge lead, and then the guys who aren't probably aren't going to make the team, gave it up, gave up the lead. So you kind of focus on the early innings while the regulars are in there. I think Corey Seager had a hit. Marcus Simeon had a hit.
Jake Berger had an RBI single, I think.
So you're seeing some guys, and again, your better pitchers are going to pitch early. So Bradford did well. Another name that I think you got to keep an eye on is Adrian Houser, who's been a really good starter for the Brewers, pitched for the Mets, who, by the way, are now without a second starter to start the year with Sean Manaea going down.
Yeah.
So, this could be a situation. I know there are a lot of free agents out there. Jose Quintana, who pitched for the Mets last year, is still available, and maybe he ends up going to New York. But, maybe Adrian Houser does too. This is when these are situations that teams find themselves in where they're not going to like the depth that they have. Maybe it's too young. Maybe they just like a guy and feel comfortable with him, like maybe they would with Houser. So at the end of camp, this stuff's going to start coming together. But I thought before the Luke Jackson signing, I thought Houser had a really good chance to make the team. But with the way that's set up now, with 6 guys, you're not going to be sending to the minor leagues. You really can't have a guy who doesn't have any options, and Houser has options, and plus there's the 40-man thing. He's in camp on a non-roster deal, so it would really be limiting to the Rangers to have him in the bullpen. But he's from Oklahoma. He really likes the idea of pitching for the Rangers. His dad was a huge Nolan Ryan fan growing up. He has apparently the dad has I don't know if it's a poster or a jersey or something. Nolan Ryan. It's no-hitter themed. It's autographed by Nolan Ryan and the 7 catchers who caught the no-hitters.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't even name them. And so that's crazy good. But Houser, good guy, and he pitched really well behind Bradford, 2 more scoreless innings. So, there is competition, and he's supplying it. There's those two spots in the bullpen that still aren't settled. So Hauser's in it. Let's say Dunning's in it. Let's say Leiter and Mark Church, who pitches today. There are some guys in that mix who you're going to have to keep an eye on this spring.
Yeah, it's part of the competition of spring training, and at the back end of the bull, or not even really the back end, but really just the last 2 spots sort of available as we see it in the bullpen. There is just a ton of competition. I don't know that this guy gets into the competition as a position player, but we have a new home run leader. In fact, we've only got 1 home run hitter so far.
Trevor Hauver, man.
How about Hauver?
He's the of the 4 players acquired in the Joey Gallo trade, he's the one who has not reached the major leagues. He was a high draft pick. He wasn't a first rounder, but he went to Arizona State, a left-handed hitter, outfielder. There was some question about where he'd end up defensively. He's even played some second base, I think. Good left-handed stroke though, and he was in AAA last year and had a nice year, and so he earned this opportunity. And I think when Sandro Fabian went to Japan, that created an opportunity for Hauver to come to camp. But the Rangers like this guy for a long time. they really have. And I'm sure I actually wrote a story about it, I don't know, a couple of years ago. You're the only one who hasn't been in the majors. Not that I have to point this out to you.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
You're
Where is Glenn Otto, by the way? Do we know?
Oh gosh, last I heard he was with the Padres.
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know where that has taken him to. He was a nice guy from the Houston area. I really like Glenn.
Nice kid. Yeah.
But now you're looking at Smith, obviously, who's batting first today. Don't read anything to that. And then Ezekiel Duran, 2 guys who you think are on this roster, but they can play the outfield. Great. They can play the infield, obviously, great. But I don't know. This Pilar thing might affect them in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Too.
We've talked through that before, and you could see a scenario where maybe Ezekiel could be an odd man out, and again, Pilar could easily factor into something like that. So more to talk about as we continue on this one. It's our cleanup segment coming next. We've got updates on a former favorite Ranger. Can you say El Blondi? Coming next, DLLS Rangers podcast. Well, you got merch, so
I do
let's
have some
go.
merch on, and I tell you what, I wore this one day in camp because it is chilly in the mornings, and Cody Bradford said, "Oh, hey, you got a little DLLS sweatshirt on." He goes, "Oh yeah, there's the flag right there and everything."
Yeah.
So, Cody, who's been on the weekly show, big fan of DLLS, obviously, and so you can get this very Cody Bradford endorsed sweatshirt,
right,
at store.allcitynetwork.com, where we also have our St. Patrick's Day stuff, some pretty fun shirts if you like to drink, and if you're proud and think you're a day drinking champion, well, we've got a shirt for you there. But we also have a bunch of Ranger shirts. There you see 2 of them. I think there's 6 in total. There's one I don't own. It's like a claw and antler.
Yes, I saw that too.
The 2010-2011 Rangers. So I guess I got to get that one. Plus, we met with our marketing group the other day, and they're ready to design some more. So go to store.allcitynetwork.com. Get you these shirts. They're great. I've gone well over my minute, but it leads into you get a free shirt when you become a diehard.
Yeah, and by the way, I placed the order for my St. Patty's Day shirt today. We'd had some issues with my website and all. Anyway, they're ordered, and they're coming. And I'm getting 2 others, too, because what the hell. Yeah. But I noticed the Claw and Antler shirt today, too. Become a diehard, get a free shirt. Look at there. I'm getting the one with the leprechaun there down at the bottom, little red beer. Oh, it's there twice. Yeah, I like that one with the leprechaun. So, but anyway, I want to remind you that you can become a diehard for $48. That's $4 a month, and you get a $35 shirt. So it's basically like $1 a month, $13 to become a diehard, get all the content.
Scan the QR code.
Scan the code, become a diehard. We love it. Time to clean up, and El Blondi, I should say, has found a home, which we figured he would, and it's not surprising that it happened into camp. It might have happened even later, but Travis Jankowski is going to Chicago to be with the Cubs, which is a pretty good landing spot.
Yeah, it is, and I think he's in a position now where, he has a huge family. I don't think he's defined by being a baseball player, but he still likes playing baseball.
He does.
And he doesn't want to go play for a bunch of bums, although, the Cubs have a history of being bums. But anyway, it's great news. It wasn't going to happen with the Rangers. I know he's a fan favorite, and people wish he'd come back, but the Rangers have moved on without him, and he's not gonna hit a lot. He's not gonna hit a lot, but he's gonna play great defense. He's gonna do very, very well on the bases. If this was back before the DH, when pitchers still hit, he was like an ideal National League player. Really, a veteran guy who can play the outfield, come off the bench, understand his role, help you out late, and he can do that for a winning team too. If you have a base clogger on the paths and you need to score a run or get a guy in a scoring position, Travis Jankowski can go out there and steal you a base and score from second pretty easily. So glad for Travis, and hope to run into him this spring, because he's just a joy. He's one of the nicest people I've ever come across in this game.
He really is. Great guy. We always root for him. I love Misty's still out in Arizona and misses seeing Jeff, but also gives us the update on Glenn Otto. He is in the Astros camp, which is great for Glenn. Again, a Houston kid, as you mentioned,
still
always one of my favorite guys because, and I told this on the broadcast one year, he comes up to me when he first meets me, and we actually happened to be in Houston when we met for a Rangers series, and he comes up and says, "Gosh, I grew up watching you on the Southwest Sports Report," which is a show we had on Valley for about 2.5 years, and he watched it every night. You and Randy McIlvoy on the Southwest Sports Report. So I always love Glenn. So we'll root for him, except when they play the Rangers, too. And he's in Astros camp. So thanks for that, Misty. How about Juan Soto, as he did last year at spring training with the Yankees, this year with the Mets? He hits a home run in his first spring training at bat. I swear to God, in some ways, I think, especially when they're not, airing it out, they're not pitching, 2 to their spots and stuff. And he could hit a home run almost every time he steps up there.
Yeah, he's just a great hitter. Just, terrific eye at the plate. Can't hit for power, yes, but he can hit for average too. A great player, obviously. $750 million player or $765, whatever.
Yeah, $765
whatever.
For 15 years.
But hit a home run, and then I don't know if we got to this last week or not. He bought Brett Beatty a car.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Is that still in there? Profit.
Brett Beatty.
Profit's working on this. I love this video.
Number 22 last year for the Mets, a young kid, prospect, one of their top prospects for a couple of years, and he was wearing 22, and well, that's Juan Soto's number, and I'm sure Brett probably was like, yeah, you can just have it. You're the man, no problem. And lo and behold, Brett scored him a Tahoe or something like that.
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Do you have it yet, Prophet? Oh, not yet. Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
we'll take a look at it because it's really cool video. And the story goes that Juan said, "I'm going to take care of you," But there was no guarantee, right? There was no, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, and then hey, come on out, I'm taking care of you, and then you go out there and there's a beautiful car. We'll try to show that here in a second because it is cool. But we want to get to a couple of other stories in the cleanup segment here, including Alex Bregman's first day. You said he's going to lead the league in doubles at, because he'll play his home games, of course, against the Green Monster there in Fenway Park. Home run, double, and single in his game yesterday.
Yeah, and the ballpark there in Fort Myers has like a mini monster.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I just thought it was a perfect fit. I still think that, and I think that wherever he ends up playing on the field, it doesn't matter. He's going to hit and he's going to put some dents into that Green Monster, and it could, the numbers are there. Just look at what he did for the Astros against the Red Sox in Fenway. It's like a 1,200 OPS. It's outrageous, and so I think that he has a real good shot.
Yeah, it's really in many ways. I'm sure it's got to be so gratifying for a guy like him to go in there and immediately sort of prove. And it's a long season. The proof is in the long season, but immediately. It's like, we paid this guy $120 million, and he's like, "Yep, you did. See what I do?"
Yeah.
And by the way, he played third base, Rafael Devers. I don't know if your comments were exactly well founded, but he played third base when he started yesterday.
Rafael Devers he's a butcher over there at third. I mean, there are a lot of stats that bear that out. So, if the Red Sox want to get better, they need to move Rafael Devers somewhere else.
And that's their intent, I believe, although much to the chagrin and the disagreement of Rafael Devers.
He just works there. Take your paycheck and go.
Yeah, no kidding.
Be happy.
And you know what? Life is a much better journey if your attitude is like a Cody Bradford.
Yeah.
Who has said, I really, wherever I play, if I'm on the big league team, I don't care whichever role I have. So let's take a look now at this footage of Brett Beatty getting his surprise from Mr. Juan Soto.
Oh, no, you didn't.
This.
No, you didn't.
Oh, my. He had no idea what he was getting. He knew he was getting something.
My guy. Hey, man.
That's a beauty.
I told you I
You're a
got it.
Tahoe? Is that a Tahoe or an Escalade, maybe?
I don't think it's an Escalade. I see the bow tie.
Oh, yeah, there's the
it's
bow tie. It's a Tahoe or either a Suburban Tahoe.
Well, that's fantastic.
It's great. It's, a nice tradition. Somebody in the Rangers organization just got a number from somebody else.
Well,
They didn't get a car, though.
Ohtani gave Joe Kelly a car.
Yeah, last year, a Porsche. Yeah.
Roki Sasaki has given Miguel Rojas a rare bottle of sake.
Oh, really?
For the number 11 or whatever it is. And then, when Scherzer came over, I can't remember what he gave Mike Maddox, but it wasn't a car.
Yeah.
Of course, Mike was probably happy to give it up anyway. But Mike, I believe, is back to 31.
Is he? Yeah. Okay.
So, but yeah, that happens, and it's always fun to see what these guys give up, and of course, that little purchase there You're dropping the bucket
my
for
gosh.
Juan Soto.
Yeah, that was walking around money.
Exactly.
That $100,000 car was walking around money. He's like, I might have that in quarters, So there you go. That's cool. I love that, and it's a nice tradition, and it's I promise you, I'd have to be pretty damn attached to a number to not give it up to a guy like that who's going to reward me that way. So,
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. I really like that. How about Alcantara getting back on the mound finally for the Fish, for the Miami team?
Yeah, that's great. And he was hitting 98 too. This guy won a Cy Young, then had the Tommy John. If you're looking for a major rotation upgrade, I'm sure that Sandy Alcantara could be had for the right price. But yeah, you always like to see these guys come back. I mean, I want to see the best players in baseball all the time.
Best pitchers, especially. Yeah. Fun.
And I don't want to go to a game and see somebody sitting out for workload management.
Right.
I want to go to a game and see a guy do what he's supposed to do. Like the Angels without Mike Trout, it's just not the same.
No.
So I am excited about this, even though he's in the other league and we may not see him this year. But it's always worthwhile when you can see a great, and when a great is healthy.
And speaking of great, people are mixed on how they feel about A-Rod around here. But
I don't think there's mixed.
What's that?
I don't think there's any mix.
Everybody hates him.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think there's a few people that still like him. But anyway, this is a cool moment. He was at a school, Bucknell, giving a speech or part of a symposium or something. And I never saw good details on how he ended up taking the shot. But there was a young man who goes to Bucknell who was going to have an opportunity to shoot a half-court shot to win $10,000. Well, A-Rod took the shot for him. Take a look. Pretty sure he called glass, too.
You're a bit of a guy before you're around.
Yeah, big, strong man, that A-Rod. And so, good for him. The kid gets $10,000, says he's going to use it for helping his parents pay for his tuition. Big day for the Bisons, who beat Army on the court that day, and that young man got $10,000 thanks to A-Rod. Who, by the way, when the Rangers were training in Fort Charlotte, they erected a basketball hoop behind the facility there for A-Rod to shoot around before and after practice. Yeah, sure was all about sports, but probably what everybody thinks. But A-Rod had a hoop out there in the back that the team put up when he was going in Fort Charlotte. So he probably would have made at least one in surprise. I don't know if they put up a hoop there, although I think there are hoops right across the street in that park, aren't there?
There are. Yeah. No, so, Bucknell's usually pretty good at basketball.
Yeah.
They really are. And then he just got approved as part of the new Timberwolves ownership group, I think.
Yeah.
A-Rod did.
Yeah,
so,
he did. He's a basketball guy.
Yeah.
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 No doubt about
apparently still working out, and maybe not doing it all with natural stuff, because he picked that kid up like he was a baby and was just throwing him around.
Put him on his shoulder.
Just swing him, put his arms out and just go around in a circle and swing them.
Looking in each other's eyes as they do it. So, but anyway, it's still kind of cool to see a kid win $10,000 because the kid ain't making that shot. I mean, almost nobody does. That's why they're giving that much money.
Yeah.
But Alex, I mean, he shot it as a jump shot too. And by the way, that half-court shot ain't easy.
No.
I've tried it a lot. When I was back in my days of covering the Mavs, we'd be at their practice facility, and it's a long way.
All right.
It's a long way. So we've accomplished a lot today. Jeff's got a conspiracy theory going on the Kevin Pillar signing.
Yes.
That's okay. I like conspiracy theories. We're going to keep a close eye on that. We'll get our sleuths working on it. We got a couple of guests in store for you this week, and it's just going to be another fun week of Rangers baseball. Jeff's here through Monday, and then another week in Arizona. And then hopefully we're both going to go back for the last part of Rangers spring training and drag the Prophet along too. That's the plan. That's the hope. We're working on all of it. We thank you, though, for joining us today. Thank the Prophet for hustling to go get us that video. We tried to run the Brett Beatty thing 2 or 3 times last week and ran out of time. So we got it in today. We thank you for joining us. We're back again tomorrow and all week at noon on the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.